They keep saying this, that if they just keep going with renewables and transmission, massive spend on the renewables generation and the transmission to link it up, that our prices will go down. Now, they are backed up on some of this by AEMO, their own experts, I suppose. Tell us in simple terms why this will or won't work.
I don't even think they're backed up by AEMO, actually, Chris. They've made it clear that they only model government policy. They don't test whether it's good policy or model what it'll do to prices. So AEMO is actually out of the picture. They don't. But I'll tell you what really annoys me. Today I spent some time in the Waratah Green Energy Park hearing, the formal hearing, where some actual experts were called by wind park proponents to explain why they need this. And that is the one claim the experts will not go near. They will absolutely run a mile. And I was pretty much told to stop them repeating what they'd said. They would not claim this will push prices down. Even people like Richard Bolt today, current chair of Hydro Tasmania, something of a greybeard, quite optimistic in my view about the prospects of things like hydrogen happening and net zero taking place around the world, still would not suggest that this will actually pull prices down. So I'm just amazed that we have the politicians saying that all the experts agree, but the experts, when they're actually asked in a place where they can be cross-examined, that is the one claim they will not go near and absolutely do not make.
And you're not surprised by that, of course, because it's a claim that you could not credibly make. For instance, they're talking about 10,000 kilometres of transmission lines. This is hundreds of billions of dollars worth of transmission lines. All that has a guaranteed rate of return. They have to charge us enough to make their guaranteed profit on that. That has to drive up prices. And Chris Bowen today was pretending that they'd have to build that transmission anyway. Why? Why would you build transmission into the middle of nowhere except to link up wind farms and solar factories?
That's right. He's absolutely completely off script and contradicting explicitly what is written into those documents that he thinks are his defence, like the integrated system plan, because in reality they're quite specific. This is to enable all that renewable energy to be built hundreds and hundreds of kilometres away, sometimes thousands of kilometres away from the main loads. And without that extra transmission, you can't bring in this dispersed, diffuse source of energy into the major loads. But we've got coal sitting there with transmission built already quite close to the loads that could be utilised.
But then on top of the transmission for the renewables, you've got to build 3 times the generating capacity you require, spread over vast areas to hope that some of it is operating, the wind is blowing somewhere at the right time. Then you have to have storage as well,
That's right,
which is incredibly expensive and you can never get enough of it. And then on top of that, you have to have some sort of firming generation. So
yes,
it's a wonder why it costs more, because you've got to have all that. Anyway, it's just extraordinary. I do want to get your analysis, though, an explanation for what's going on with this super battery, the Waratah super battery on the central coast of New South Wales. Now, this was $1 billion battery, massive battery. There's been a problem with it recently, some sort of transformer, so it's not operating properly. But wasn't the idea of this battery to replace the Eraring coal-fired power station? But that's still going, isn't it? What's going on here?
That's exactly right. If you do a careful look at what the Waratah super battery was meant to achieve for us, it was meant to be a stopgap, just to kind of an interim solution for 5.5 years, and it's nearly $1 billion, not quite that, but almost that, is being spent just in 5.5 years for a stopgap, because Matt Keane was rushing for Eraring to close in 2025.
Right.
And guess what? The Minns government came in, did an expert review of the energy system, and they concluded it was the easiest, most obvious thing to keep Eraring going for at least another couple of years. But that cost for that battery, it was really only there to basically let us pretend we could run our lines a whole lot hotter to try to bring in more energy from the south and the north, mainly from the south. It was just to pretty much basically give us a kind of, an extra excuse to try, but it would have only covered about less than a quarter of Eraring.
Yeah.
And so we're paying $1 billion for this solution that we now know we don't need and was never going to be a satisfying solution even for those 5 years in the first place. So
and it's not working anyway, apparently. There's some. Is it a major mishap there or a major malfunction?
It is a major malfunction, catastrophic failure. They've pretty much blown up one of the 3 transformers, and the other one of the others they've taken offline because they're not sure how it will fare. And that was because they were putting it through its paces to do this incredible, very innovative thing, which is to ramp up in a small fraction of a second to replace a huge amount of power that would normally be coming from outside the grid. That function was meant to stop things blowing up when we're running our system extra hot, like literally running the lines at 120 degrees. And now, in practicing to get it ready, they've blown up one of the transformers. So it is an absolute mess. And now we're paying about $100 million a year for a service that we don't need right now.
It is such a mess. Shouldn't the federal government, at the very least, if they think their national electricity plans work, bring in an independent overseas expert just to look at it and tell us where we're heading? Because everything else is caught up in a political debate.
Look, they could bring in an external expert. I think that if they're honest with themselves, even an internal look, the opportunity is absolutely ripe now for the Minns government, for example, to do a deep reset of the roadmap that Matt Keane put in place, because they've admitted the 25 closure of Eraring doesn't work. We're currently paying about $100 million a year too much for that interim solution. They should just sort of say, let's do this at a steady pace and consider when Eraring could close. Give us another 5 years. The market operators requested 5-year notice of closure. Let's say we need at least another 5 years and come up with a plan that doesn't make these huge blunders. So I think that some kind of review, some sort of reset is absolutely required.
Aidan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.